to another episode of Something Real. I hope you guys tuned in to our first episode with our intro. I guess that was our little bit of an intro, right?
Got to know us a little
this
bit.
is going to be, and I know we were real light and airy on this, and I know we're going to, we're just going to go right into this. How are you guys doing today?
Oh my gosh, I am like in the best space right now and just feeling really connected with what we're doing here and our intentions and our purpose of why we're here and our intentions in connecting with everyone out there that's going to be watching.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired.
Of course you are.
Anya didn't
7
sleep
kids.
last night, but I'm good, and I'm here instead of at home taking a nap. So, and I'm enjoying a glass of wine with my girlfriend.
Amen.
So I'm
Amen.
good. I'm
Amen.
good.
Thank you for continuing to bring the wine.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. This is going to be a thing. I've always liked Kathy, Lee, and Hoda.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that they would get up in the morning and drink wine.
Right.
Like it is 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like happy hour, and I was like, hey, it is. And
It's 5 o'clock p.m. somewhere.
they're my girls, man. I want us to get on Kathy, Lee, and Hoda one day.
Nice.
So
Don't
I would
watch
love
that.
us to drink wine with them.
Right.
With you?
Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. We'll just get right down to it.
Yeah, let's get
Because
real.
it's time. We're about to get real. And this was like a story I don't even think we even intended on getting into this topic. And it has to do with you, Rowena.
Yeah.
It's about suffering with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that statement, suffering with your partner, I thought about the Bible when they talk about how love can be long-suffering and what that means. You don't know what anything means until you're really into it. And
Right,
you really
exactly.
investigate and you're immersed in those feelings, into your feelings. I think all of what we go through is the love journey that we're doing, a self-love journey.
Right.
But you got all these little supporting roles around you. You got the husband, you got the kids, you got the friendships and all these supporting roles around the love that you are developing in yourself. So I want you to go ahead and tell. Are you ready to tell this?
I'm ready.
And and
totally
Brandy,
ready.
if you, like I said, I want you to kind of if you have to share, if there's something there you want to connect with her on. I mean, I want everybody to hear this because this is such a really powerful story because this is our first conversation, mind you.
This is our first topic. Our
No,
first piece.
not even just that.
Oh,
the first conversation that we had literally
yes,
at
our
the
first
table.
conversation
At the
She
restaurant.
brought this up to me.
Right.
She felt, and this happens to me all the time, that people feel comfortable enough to share some of their most innermost things going on, and they know damn well that I will take it to the grave. Unless
Right.
you're saying it yourself to everybody else,
Right.
I'm taking it to the vault.
Right, which is why you asked me, are you ready to share this here? And it's like, well, absolutely I'm ready to share
Okay.
this
Should
here
we
because
real quick
Got it.
give a quick, because we didn't go over this in our first intro, but
Got it.
just as we're going to talk about this in relationship wise, give a
Absolutely.
snapshot of and I'm talking, so I'll start. So I am divorced and I have 2 kids from my marriage, and I am actually, Mike and I aren't married yet, but I'm in a blended family, and we have a total of 7 kids between the 2 of us. So I've been the stay-at-home mom that was married and I was young. I've been the divorced mom. I've been the single mom. Now I'm the blended bonus mom. So
Bonus mom.
like the Brady Bunch mom over here.
Yes, you are.
Everyone asks me if I'm getting a dog, and I'm like, I need anything else to keep
Do
alive. I
not
can't keep
stop.
plants alive.
I know.
I can only keep the kids alive right now.
I got the dogs. I got the dogs for
So,
you.
all right,
I
so
got
we're
the dogs,
good.
I'll let
Okay.
you borrow them. Or you can bring the kids over and
On
they
the
can
weekends
play.
that I have all the kids, I just needed to clean up the crumbs on the floor. I'll just borrow them for a weekend. I'll rent him from you. I need you.
Perfect.
So that's my
Rent a
background.
dog.
Rent a dog. Seriously. Hey, we're on to something.
Yeah.
That's my background. So when you hear me talk about anything, that's kind of my history. So
Go ahead.
let's
And
go.
I have been twice divorced, and I entered into my 3rd marriage
Just recently.
just recently.
Was it last weekend?
It was a week ago.
Yeah. Congrats.
2 weeks ago. I'm sorry, it's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks you've been married.
Oh my gosh.
So, like,
See, it's time flies and you're having fun. But that took me from my last divorce, which was 13 years prior.
Wow.
It took me 13 years later to be and to make that commitment again.
Right.
It took me that much time to be
That's good,
okay,
though.
to find myself, to go on this journey, to fall in love again, and to
Right.
be and to trust in my dream. I refuse to let go of my dream
Right.
of having a loyal and good partner in my life who just wants me to be happy. And
That's
I found that in this man for
Aw.
3 years. And
I
you know,
love that.
finally, and it used to, you know, and my sisters used to call me my relationships in my past didn't last more than like probably 2 years. I got tired. Or I just felt like, I don't believe in this anymore.
Yeah.
And then I'd leave.
Yeah.
I didn't care if I had kids. I didn't care if I said, here, you can have,
Time to go.
you can have the house, the money, I don't care. I just want my peace of mind and my sanity
Right.
away from your ass. It's not
Yeah.
worth that fight in me.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That was my story. You know, so that's all I did. And I just said, you know what? I know that the universe, I always knew that God had my back regardless. And as long as I kept my Godhead on all them years ago, I would get there eventually. But I had to get out of my own way a lot too.
Yeah. We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you and I first met, that was kind of the connection that I think we initially started
Yeah.
talking about, because when we first met, my first thing that I talked to her about was, you know, I'm in the process of going through divorce. And, you know, and she's like, oh,
Yeah.
and you know, many of you obviously are hearing this for the first time too, and you know, it's one of those things that I think, you know, I've never been divorced. I've been married 27 years, and you know, you hit a point where you're together and you're going to work and you're coming home and you're going to work and you're coming home, and it's like, okay, so what's left for us?
You're
And then
going
my
through the
kids,
motions.
right? And I have 2 beautiful girls that, you know, they're grown and for the most part pretty much out of the house. My older one has moved out of the house and she lives with her boyfriend, and my younger one, you know, she does still live at home, but she has her own life and she's out all the time too. So for all intents and purposes, they're all grown and kind of gone, and it's like, okay, so where are we at? And I just hit a point where I'm like, all I wanted to focus on was me. And it's like, okay, so if the only thing I can control and the only thing that I really can make a difference in is myself, then I need to focus on me and what's important for Rowena and what are Rowena's, you know, values in life, and how does that all fit together. And I had gone through life coaching and life coaching training back in, I think it was like 2013, 14, in that vicinity. And during that process, I went and visited the monks the first time, and
That's
these
deep.
are, yeah,
That is deep. Too.
yeah, and these are Trappist monks, so they are of the Catholic border, and the place that I go to is in Kentucky, and it's called the Abbey of Gethsemane. And the first time I went, my purpose for going was because my brother had passed away in the end of 2011, so I think it was in 2013 I ended up actually going because my head was still messed up, and I dove pretty deep into a bottle as well. It was probably about this color red, and I kind of stewed and drowned in that for a while of, you know, not knowing who I was and where I was going. And so I ended up with these monks, and my purpose was to really run away. And I'm sure all of us have had that feeling at some point in time that you just want to run away, you want to get away from life, but you don't want to end up on the side of a milk carton or on the post office wall. So, I say that jokingly, but it's like, you know, inside when you feel like you want to run away, but you don't want people to come and search for you, or you don't want to end up on the news, it's like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, okay, so this is a silent retreat, and I don't have to talk, and I can tell everybody I'm going to disconnect from Facebook, I'm going to disconnect from Instagram, you're not going to be able to connect to me.
So freaking
No
healthy.
email.
So useful.
So I got there the first time, and back in 2013 it was. And when I went the first time, I didn't talk to anybody, I stayed to myself, and I was just very withdrawn, but didn't realize how withdrawn I really was. And I did sit down and have some really meaningful conversations with one of the monks there. His name's Brother Christian. And a lot of the meaningful things that we talked about was, and this is another hard thing to, you know, say out loud, because I wouldn't have even said it out loud until I sat down and talked to Brother Christian, was I was in this dark place, and I just looked at him, I said, why'd God leave me? Because I'm alone, I don't feel like he's present, I'm not around him, I used to be able to feel him with me, and he's not present anymore.
Wow.
And he looked at me and he's like, just very calmly said, well, he never left you, he's just standing behind you with his hands open like this, you're just facing the wrong way.
Oh, I like that.
And I was like,
good.
and so there was a part of me that wanted to kind of go like, so I'm like, okay, well, this is pretty enlightening. And he said, well, and this was the beginning of my week there. And he said, well, why don't you see how your week goes? Because this place has a way of doing something to you.
Yeah.
And he goes, and let's talk again at the end of the week. So that was my first visit there. And I felt like that week was my week to really just kind of yell at God, be angry, and just get out that sadness and the frustration of where I was at in my life. So then the second time I went was basically to really give thanks back, which was last year. And I went to really kind of be thankful for what I had gotten from the time that I went back in 2013 and how much it had changed my life since then. So then this time I went, I'm like, what's my real purpose for going this time? I'm like, I know I just want to go because I want to make it a regular thing going once a year, but I didn't really know, and I was in a place in my life
Do
where...
you ever really need to know?
No, it's it, yeah, and that's what I realized. It's like I didn't need to have a purpose that time. So it was just I was going for me and to see what was going to happen while I was there. And so I went this time with all this baggage of what was going on in my marriage and thinking I needed to run away from it and be gone. And when I got there, I met this person that was also going through divorce and tried to tell me what I should do with my relationship, which kind of ticked me off a little bit. So he did have a good point of, have you ever really written down how you feel and told your husband? And I thought, well, yeah, I have, but I haven't, I lied. So I went back, hey, we're being real, right? So I went back to my room and I typed up this really long email of how I felt with
That's a
my
message.
truth.
Oh, don't you love the messengers?
Totally a message. So I wrote up all of this information of where I was at and what I was going through with no blame to it, but it was just my truth of where I was at in my life with our relationship, and I sent it to him. And then, you know, throughout that week, the monks always do 2 talks when you're there. And the one talk that Father Carlos was talking about was suffering, which is how the name of this particular, you know, suffering with your partner came to be. And so, and this was the conversation we had when we got together last week. And because she's like, so where are you at in your divorce process? I go, well, let me tell you where I'm at. So I listened to Father Carlos talk about how, you know, in the world, you know, God's intention for us is that God so loved this world. And so many times people are like, well, the world is angry, the world is hateful, the world is, you know, the devils. And it's like, he doesn't like when he hears people say that. And I totally agree with him. He created this earth for us to enjoy every plant, every tree, every flower, every being that's on this earth, and we're all connected, and we're connected.
Did you notice on my intro, that's exactly what I said from the last week's episode?
Yes, exactly.
About
It's
liking, enjoying. I'm an artist, and I'm enjoying my life and all the things that I'm creating
Exactly.
around me.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like we all breathe the same breath, and when it says that God breathed his breath on this earth, that breath that he breathed on the earth is the same breath we breathe in and out every single day. Thus, this book, The Healing Breath, which I highly recommend. It's by Ruben L.F. Habito, I believe is how it's pronounced. And after I finished reading this book, I did contact the author because he does retreats and I want to go to one of them, and he's in Dallas.
Awesome.
So I am going to go. So I highly recommend this book.
We should all go.
Totally.
There will be a baby hanging off you. Let's put that out there.
So
By that time, you'll be, come on, Brandy, let's go away. We got this work thing to do.
Right.
This
we're all going to be running away.
This work thing.
Don't watch those my girls.
Yeah. So towards the end of my week,
I love you.
I started
fun for
really,
me.
I started really focusing on the word that he was talking about, which was suffering, and that whole connection that we have. And when we know somebody that's hurting, whether we know them and it wasn't somebody present in our life or somebody that's across the world that had an earthquake that just happened and they lost their family, you know, you suffer with them. And how do you suffer with somebody you aren't like presently with? You pray. And you pray for them and you be with them. If it's somebody that's close to you, then you just be with. There's not words that we're given to try to fix things and make things better. It's you just be with somebody when they're going through something. So I started thinking about, well, what am I going through in my life? And, you know, the biggest thing was, you know, I've got this 27-year marriage and that we've invested a lot of time and love into, that here I am wanting to run away from it when I haven't taken the opportunity to suffer with what he's going through with the possibility of him leaving. And so I came back with this new outlook on that's where I really need to be, is to suffer with the relationship instead
Which
of
is
trying to
really
suffer
hard to do.
out it.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, just small drink of water.
Yes. And
No, why? Cheers.
So when you're going through this piece of this suffering, it's like in my mind I kept thinking, well, I'm going to suffer with him or I'm going to suffer without him. So either way, I'm going to suffer. So which one has the least of the two like angsts of being in pain?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, that suffering piece was really meant to be that I'm supposed to go home and talk to my husband and really open up to, and that's the piece that's the hard piece, is that now you're opening up yourself, and I'm doing this in a way of that you're opening up your heart again.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's so many times when we do open up our heart to the people that are closest to us, and we feel when we get hurt that we close it back up. And that be with peace means that you're with that suffering, be with, whether you're hurt or not hurt, but be with their suffering, not with your own.
Your
Right.
husband's
Take
your
your own and put it-
family.
Yes.
He became your family.
Exactly.
He has an imprint on your soul, your being. He is
Yeah.
like he is the person that when you said those vows to, you meant every word. You know, you're that woman, man.
Right.
You're that woman. Like I feel like I'm on that path right now with this man that I married, 2 weeks ago, even though I've been with him for 3 years. But I can't imagine. I've always wanted to feel that. I can't imagine
The connection.
life without him.
Right.
It would be boring. You know what I mean? No, it really wouldn't. No, that's a lie. I'm a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
she's not boring.
I'm
Yeah.
a lot of fun. But I would miss him terribly. It would just would feel like a hole.
A void.
That's a void that I don't ever want.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? When you find that person, you hold on to them, and especially when they feel that way about you.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, and it's so cool that he feels like that about me.
Yeah.
Like I'm his family.
Yep.
I am all that he thinks about. I am that person that I always wanted to feel that, especially the way I was raised. Not having, I've had aspects of that, but not that full thing, because there was a lot that when my mother, single mother, my sisters, all of them are going through, and there was a lot of dynamic with all of those women. And then me, I suffered through that, but I could never imagine life without them, even though we all suffered together, our mom just passing 2 years ago. And that was hard.
Right.
That was so hard. But these girls, even though they get on my nerves, and I want to divorce them every day, take this out of my life, but I love you, bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel like that with my dude.
Right.
Does it make sense?
Totally.
Isn't that long suffering?
Totally. Yes. Yes.
I get it now.
And that's where I came back to. It's like that, I really had a hard time imagining not him being in my life. I could imagine living someplace else, and I could imagine being someplace else, but each time I did without him being there, I was like, well, I might miss that, or I might miss that. And once I opened up to him and kind of started sharing these things with him, lo and behold, he opened up to me and then started sharing, some things that he had written down actually back in 2015.
Wow.
Which, he's obviously been hurting and suffering since back then when, you argue, you fight, you stop talking, and then there's just nothing that you talk about.
Men have
The
a
space
tendency-
it just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the gap just got further and further apart, but he opened up to me and shared with me all the things that he had written down on this paper about things that he missed about us in our life. And I realized that was the door that he finally just opened. And I'm like, yes, finally. Okay. So it's like, okay, now we have a starting point of where to go from here, that we've
Right.
got this openness. So let's just be with.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, last night we started drinking some wine and getting a little crazy. And he took me underneath the underside of his Jeep because we started talking about how Jeeps work. And he's talking about how the drive shaft works and how it controls the wheels. And I'm like, I'm trying to visualize this. I go, I think I can visualize it. He goes, it's even better. Let's go visualize it really. So he had me crawl under his Jeep and he's like showing me with the light on his phone all these things. And I'm like, this is amazing. And he goes, welcome to my world. And when he said that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've really walked into his world. This is kind of cool. So that's like this newness of and I laid there and laughed so hard. And then the next thing I realized he's got his light on me, and I'm like, you didn't just record that. He goes, oh yeah, I got the whole thing. So it's probably gonna show up on Facebook somewhere at some point in time, me laying on the ground
This
laughing.
is
underneath.
If we
awesome.
find that, we will share it on the page.
We'll share it with you. And I, you know what, I know he has it on his phone, so, you know, since
And
we're
that's
being
the
real, I'm
thing.
gonna share it with
That's
you.
the thing. So here's the point. I think we're both getting to the point that what are you willing to suffer for? And you know what? We all can endure a lot more than we think we can.
Absolutely.
Even with our relationships, even with sometimes just making peace and just letting down your guard, letting some things go, and just allowing that just portal to just open up again.
Right.
It will surprise you again.
Even if it's
It
under a
will-
Jeep.
Even if it's under a Jeep. Cheers, ladies, on that one.
Yes. All right. So I think that's pretty much a wrap on, you know, suffering with your partner.
Yeah, I think we'll come back. I think
Yeah,
that's
I like
definitely
that.
something that we'll.
Revisit.
I would love to
Keep
get
coming up
and you know
and-
what? And I would love that if people have a question, please leave comments.
Yes.
That we can answer for you on future episodes. If you've got like a burning question about something, you just have to we'll put our own little fishbowl here.
Or if
and we'll
there's
just
something
start
you want to
pulling.
hear us talk about, or you
Right.
want to know something about one of us, or just anything, put that out there. You can leave comments. We actually have an email address that we'll share on the page that you can email any inquiries to and reach all three of us. And yeah,
Great.
This is
All
good.
right.
all right.
Thank
All
you for
right, so-
tuning in to Something Real.